you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes?
Simon in Ontario.
Yeah,
Hello.
hello?
Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, Don and Russell, how are you guys doing?
Hey, how are you doing, Simon?
Good, good. It's a pleasure to talk to you guys. Don, you had a good talk there before about the second coming, and I was just thinking about the analogy of that with the kind of Jewish version, where the Jews aren't waiting for a second coming, but for the
Their
first
Messiah,
coming,
right?
I guess.
Right.
And I was just thinking to myself, like, assuming that happens, like, what happens after that? People are just, like, in a state of amazingness for the rest of eternity, for millions of years? Like,
Well, it's like in
look
Star
back
Trek
at
when
us where we had this turmoil and there's a build-up to the coming, and then those guys kind of just have it easy. You know, they're born, they live their entire life, and then, I don't know. So,
well, I was going to make an analogy that in Star Trek we know that Spock's blood is green, right? But
Yeah.
but we don't know the color of his bones because that was never discussed in the show. So you're off the script is the problem.
okay.
Yeah, it's like
You've run off the rails of the fiction.
what blood type is the Mad Hatter?
So that's the answer. Is that the story only went so far; it didn't cover all the eventualities.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So I had two things I wanted to do. One was to ask, like, a quick question on your opinion on the Kuzari argument.
Not familiar with that? But what is that?
The Kuzari argument. That's in the Jewish tradition. There's the main argument that rabbis always tell me is that the Jews witnessed God giving them the Torah or the Bible, and there were 600,000 of them. And after
600,000,
that,
a big number.
Yeah, and then after that, they passed down that story. And so the argument is, how can the Jews have this story in their Bible if it didn't happen?
Well, you know, it's funny you should mention that, because last week I saw Christopher Hitchens rise from the dead. Do you believe me?
Oh, I saw it too.
Yeah.
Actually,
Believe me more?
It happened. It just so happens that 1 million people were with me, even more than in that story. I can't give you any of their names, and none of them bothered to write it down, but I'm telling you now that there were 1 million people, and so you couldn't disbelieve me if 1 million people agree with me, right?
Yeah, I got a videotape in the mail about Jesus, and the outer material for it claimed that 3 billion people had seen this videotape.
I mean, the thing is, I kid, but some people say things that aren't true. Either they know that they're not true, or they really want them to be true, and they delude themselves into believing
It's oral
it.
history, and it gets embellished along the way.
Yeah, and sometimes they come up with numbers in order to make their story sound impressive that actually, I mean, if it's part of the one story that says, I saw this thing, and so did 600,000 of my friends, just because it says that in there doesn't mean that the 600,000 were there.
And it is like their kind of main argument, which, you know,
well, it sucks.
It's just shocking. It's just crazy.
Yeah, the skeptic in me says, well, that's a claim that has to be proven somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that's the only argument, and you don't have anything else, then it's...
Yeah, and historians actually have ways of working this stuff out. I mean, people call us and say, well, you don't have any evidence that Julius Caesar was alive. But the fact is that it wasn't just like one guy or a handful of buddies who said, I swear I saw this guy, Julius Caesar, do amazing things. A whole bunch of different people from different cultures had kind of interactions with this guy, and there are things about people like Julius Caesar where even if you have a pretty good reason to believe that the guy was real, some of the claims about him, like he was a god in human form and he rose straight to the skies when he died. historians don't have to believe that stuff. I mean, you know, they can actually figure out which
Cross
of the
the
things
lines,
are,
right.
which of the things are supported by the historical evidence that they've got from multiple sources.
So, you know, miraculous claims require, you know,
for sure.
What's the quote exactly?
Extraordinary claims
require extraordinary evidence.
Was that originally Carl Sagan, or
well, it's attributed to him, so that's a good one. So,
can I make one more point?
Sure.
So I was reading Genesis about a month ago, and just in the very beginning, the way it read, it sounded as if it's written from a perspective of a person who observes the world and doesn't know much else beyond what a person would know 3,000 years ago, per se. So the hierarchy of creation is like light, darkness, water, and then earth, and then there's like the firmament, and then the stars, and then the sun and the sky, and then grass, light.
Well, in Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, there are two different creation accounts, and they conflict with each other, and they're both wrong. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was saying last
it's pretty
week,
bad when the Bible contradicts itself, right?
Yeah, I was saying a couple of weeks ago when I was on that maybe the Bible wasn't written by a bunch of ignorant nomadic sheep herders who were just writing about the things that fell in their experience. But if it wasn't, then somebody sure went to a lot of trouble to make it look like it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe we should hatch a conspiracy theory.
And so. Like the interesting thing that I discovered was I was reading the Hebrew version. I read it in Hebrew.
Well, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I grew up in Israel. So the word for firmament was rakia, and that was one word I could never understand what that meant. That's something that kind of never clicked with me. And then I looked it up in the dictionary, and the dictionary said rakia is the nickname that people in ancient times gave to the dome of the sky that separated the water above from the water below.
Yeah.
And so it all of a sudden made total sense. People physically, like literally believed that there's a physical dome separating the water above from the water below.
Yeah, and the stars were all pasted to it.
You think that's crazy? Some creationists still say that that's real.
Okay, you see the flat Earth creationists, I guess?
Well, I don't know if they're flat Earth, but I think Henry Morris in particular has used that to explain the Great Flood. He was like, you know, oh, well, there was a bunch of water hanging in the sky, and then God let it all go, and that's where it came from.
Yeah, and Genesis literally states it like that. There's water above this dome, and that explains why the sky is blue. That explains why, that explains the rain. And I had a hunch that the story of Noah's flood will have some connection to this, and I read ahead.
Right.
And it said windows opened up in the firmament, and then water
like
fell down.
Spaceballs.
Like, okay, come on. This is like positive proof that this is written by.
It's an amusing story, but don't take it too seriously. Yep.
Okay, we got 5-6 minutes left. So
thank you, Simon.
Thanks for calling. Back to you guys. Happy Darwin Day, and I'll keep watching your videos.
All right, see ya.